A review into the water sector in England and Wales has found it is plagued with deep-rooted failures and needs stronger regulation to better protect bill payers and the environment. The review, which was set up in October after growing public concern about sewage spills and rising bills, said that public trust had been shaken by pollution, financial difficulties and mismanagement. Here's our environment correspondent, Jonah Fisher.
For decades, pollution and making profits have gone hand in hand in the water industry.
This is the outfall from Witney sewage treatment works.
We're being taken to where the wastewater treatment plant spills both treated and at times raw sewage into the stream.
Last year it spilled for 2,800 hours, which is an awful long time, which is a huge volume of untreated sewage, which is why this is just full of sewage fungus.
Thameswater says it's investing millions of pounds here to increase capacity. Sir John Cunliffe, a former civil servant, has been tasked with restoring trust in the water industry. His interim report was published today. It's a broad critique of government policy, regulators and the water companies. He said he'd heard accounts of deep-rooted, systemic and interlocking failures. In his recommendations, the regulators are singled out for criticism, much to the delight of the water companies.
Give the regulators all the powers that they need, which could include more people, which could include more money. That's absolutely fine. But we also need a bit of simplification, because at the moment it can take up to about 10 years between identifying a problem and putting in place a solution. That's far too slow, and I don't think the public will accept that.
This commission has been billed as a once-in-a-generation review, the biggest since privatisation. But when it was set up, the most controversial issue, the question as to whether water companies should be privately owned, was deliberately excluded. The government says renationalisation is simply too expensive, and there's no evidence that it would make things better.
We've had 35 years of people trying to tinker with this and fix it. They can't, because overall there's a massive incentive driven by bonuses to extract money to shareholders and to find out what is the worst possible service the public and the bill payer will accept.
It sounds like you don't think private water companies should be involved.
How many chances do we need to give them? We know they're not suited for this.
A more detailed final report will be published later in the summer. It will then be up to the government to decide what happens next. Jonah Fisher, BBC News in Oxfordshire.
Well, meanwhile, the future of Thames Water is in doubt after an American private equity group pulled out of a deal to buy the company. Thames Water is the UK's biggest water company and serves about a quarter of the UK's population, mostly in London and southern England. The US group, KKR, had been selected as the preferred partner to inject £4 billion of much-needed cash into the company. Well, Simon Jack is with me now. So why have they pulled out and what impact is it going to have on Thames?
It's a big setback for Thames. As you say, KKR were the preferred bidder. They got plenty of money. They had it ready to go. They'd done lots of homework. The deal seemed close. But in the end, I'm told that a combination of political and regulatory risk added to the burden of trying to turn around this ailing company. And that was presented for some people watching the deal in a nutshell when, for example, Thames was hit with a £123 million fine just a couple of weeks ago. That was welcomed by the government as a major crackdown on failing water companies. Now, that raises the chance that it will fall now into a government-sponsored administration. And the Environment Secretary said today the government stands ready to do this, as it will with any company. Thames is not any company. It's in really big trouble. There is a plan B. The company is effectively owned by the people who've lent it all this money, and they are putting together a rival bid to try and take that on. But as things stand, you know, it is a precarious time for the company. But both Thames and the Environment Secretary say nationalisation or part nationalisation is not necessary right now, and that even if that happens, that people will get, those 60 million people will still get their waste and their water services as usual, business as usual. But as we know, business as usual has not been great.